At the beginning of the drama, we see a cute little girl named Emily. Her mother, Emma, had passed away, and with someone's help, she placed her mother's dead body on a carriage, going from one temple to another. Outside every temple, she fell to her knees, praying desperately for God to bring her mother back to life. When people heard her prayers, they started gossiping, calling her crazy for believing a dead person could come back to life. But Emily ignored their words and continued praying at each temple. Meanwhile, Emma's soul watched her daughter, feeling helpless and heartbroken. The scorching sun drained Emily's strength, and she eventually collapsed from exhaustion. In her unconscious state, she remembered her husband, James, and cried out, "I hate you." Then, we see a flashback from 1 month ago at a hospital checkup. The doctor informed Emma that she had terminal cancer in its final stage. She anxiously asked how much time she had left. The doctor explained that if she underwent treatment, she might survive for 3 months, but without treatment, she could die at any time. Even with treatment, there was no guarantee she would last those 3 months. Saddened, Emma left the doctor's office and called James, asking him to pick her up. He coldly replied that he was busy with work and told her to take a taxi home. Heartbroken, she started leaving but then spotted James with his mistress, Sophia. Sophia was pregnant and happily sharing the news with James, who seemed overjoyed. When James noticed Emma, he quickly hid Sophia behind him, awkwardly telling Emma not to overthink. Shocked, she confronted him, reminding him that he had claimed to be working. James coldly stated that he wanted a divorce. Devastated, Emma pleaded with him not to break their family, but Sophia taunted her, saying James never loved her. Furious, Emma threatened Sophia, but James intervened, reminding Emma that their marriage was a business deal. 6 years ago, when James went bankrupt, Emma had given him $30 million to save his company, in exchange for marriage. At the time, James had warned her that he would never love her, but Emma had believed that, with time, he would. Back in the present, Emma, realizing the bitter reality, slapped Sophia and refused to sign the divorce papers. She declared that she wouldn't allow their child to be called legitimate while her daughter was left alone. Wanting to silence Emma, Sophia pretended to feel unwell, and James, concerned, carried her away, warning Emma that she had 1 week to sign the divorce papers or he would make her regret it. Confused about how long James had been involved with Sophia, Emma hired a detective. When the detective returned with information, he revealed that Sophia had come back 7 months ago and already had a 5-year-old son. Seeing a photo of James with Sophia and their child, Emma realized that every time James claimed to be on a business trip abroad, he had actually been with Sophia. The detective confirmed her suspicion. Emma, distressed about her daughter's future, gave the detective a bank card as payment and dismissed him. Later, when she picked Emily up from school, she tried to hide her pain. Seeing her daughter happy, Emma smiled and promised her a reward: ice cream. However, in return, Emily had to agree to a special kind of training. Emma decided to teach her daughter some basic skills so that when she was gone, Emily could take care of herself. She first taught her how to heat water in a kettle. Emily quickly learned but then said Emma should learn to cook noodles. Since Emily had never done such work before, she soon became tired and said she would learn the rest later. This made Emma angry, and she insisted that Emily complete her task. Frustrated, Emily threw the noodles into the hot water carelessly. Emma, equally frustrated, scolded her and explained that when putting something in boiling water, it should be done from a distance and carefully. Deep down, Emma felt guilty for being harsh, but she had no time left and was helpless. Emily started crying and shouted at Emma, first apologizing, then asking why she was being forced to learn all this. Emma explained that she wanted her to be independent. When Emily asked what that meant, Emma replied that it meant she had to do everything on her own. Emily, still crying, asked, "If I do everything myself, then what will you do?" That night, as Emma put her to sleep, Emily whispered, "Mom, I can't live without you. You have to do everything for me." Emma, holding back tears, responded, "I can't live without you either, but I have no choice." Later, Emma signed the divorce papers and called James, demanding the return of her $30 million. James, who was at Sophia's house, informed her of this, which made Sophia furious. She argued that there was no need to return the money for a divorce, but James insisted that he was only returning what belonged to Emma. He transferred the money to her account. The next day, Emma took Emily to an insurance company and secured a policy in her name so that when she became an adult, she could access the money. When Emily saw the amount, she was shocked, but Emma reassured her that everything she owned belonged to Emily. Worried that James and Sophia might try to take the money after her death, Emma hid the insurance receipt inside Emily's doll, stitched it up, and told her to keep the doll with her at all times. She warned her never to mention it to anyone, not even her father. Emily was upset but nodded in agreement. As Emma got up, she suddenly felt dizzy and collapsed onto the bed. She weakly told Emily to call her dad. Meanwhile, at Sophia's house, James was looking at his wedding photos and reminiscing about Emma. He thought to himself that now that he had returned her money, everything between them was settled, and she could no longer blame him for anything. Then Sophia comes, and he hides the photo. Sophia says that our son Vicky wants to eat fruit, so you should bring some. James leaves, and his phone is left there. Just then, Emily called, but Sophia answered the phone. Emily pleaded, "Dad, come save Mom." Sophia coldly responded that James was in the shower and couldn't talk. Vicky, Sophia's son, then chimed in, saying, "He's only my dad. You can't call him that." Sophia quickly hung up and deleted the call history so James wouldn't know. Emily turned back to her mother, saying, "If I give you medicine, you'll feel better." Emma weakly signaled toward the medicine bottle. Emily tried to feed her the medicine, but in her distress, she spilled it all. Desperate, she grabbed the empty bottle and rushed to the medical store. At one store, the shopkeeper refused to help her because she had no money. As it began to rain heavily, Emily saw an old man and handed him her umbrella, saying, "Mom says old people get sick if they stay in the rain." She then hurried to another pharmacy. The pharmacist told her the medicine was expensive, and Emily broke her piggy bank, offering all her savings. However, the pharmacist, a low-salaried worker, said she couldn't give the medicine without full payment. Emma's soul watched helplessly as Emily sat on the floor, pleading for her mother's life. Just then, an old woman stepped forward and paid for the medicine. Emily thanked the old lady and left the store with the medicine. Crying, she hurried home, falling multiple times on the way. When she finally arrived, she saw blood on her mother's face. Remembering her mother's words about infections, she wetted a towel and gently cleaned Emma's face. Emma's soul watched in sorrow. After that, Emily emptied the tub, refilled it with fresh water from a jug, and then tried to feed the medicine to her mother. However, since Emma was already unresponsive, her mouth wouldn't open. Desperate, Emily pried open her teeth, placed the tablet inside, and poured some water in. Meanwhile, Emma's soul wondered how she could ever leave her daughter. Just then, James called Anya's phone. Emily answered, saying, "Dad, Mom is asleep, don't disturb her," and quickly hung up. But when she touched Emma's hand, she noticed it was growing cold. Panicked, she hugged her mother tightly, blaming her for leaving her alone. On the other side, James found it odd that Emma had fallen asleep so soon. Sophia reassured him, saying she was probably just tired or avoiding signing the divorce papers. The next day, Emily struggled to move her mother onto the sofa. Determined to care for her, she fed Emma and said, "You used to feed me, now I will be your feeder." She told her mother everything that had happened, continuing to feed her bit by bit, even as food fell from her mouth. 2 days passed like this, and soon, a foul smell filled the house. Passers-by began murmuring about an eerie stench and gathered outside, speculating about a ghost inside. Eventually, people decided to break the door. James and Sophia arrived just as the door was opened, only to be shocked Emma had died. At that moment, Emily brought a bowl of porridge and said, "Mom, you haven't eaten in 2 days, please eat this." As she tried to feed her, Sophia bluntly stated, "She's dead." The bowl slipped from Emily's hands and shattered. She broke down, refusing to believe it. James rushed forward, picked her up, and called for an ambulance. At the hospital, Emily sat outside the cold room, overhearing 2 women talking. One said, "My daughter-in-law couldn't conceive for years, but I prayed at Mount Spirit, and now I have a grandson." The other agreed, saying, "Whoever prays there finds their wishes granted." Inspired, Emily convinced 2 people to help her, then secretly took her mother away in a taxi. When James and Sophia arrived, the doctor scolded James, saying, "Your daughter is reckless. She hired two strangers and took her mother from the hospital. James panicked, wondering where Emily had gone, while Sophia, though pretending not to care, secretly hoped Emily would succeed in saving her mother. Emily, with the help of those two men, placed Emma's body in a garage and went from temple to temple, praying desperately. Emma's soul helplessly watched. Exhausted, Emily collapsed and lost consciousness. When she awoke, she saw the old man she had helped earlier. Surprised, she asked, "Grandpa, how are you here? Where am I?" The man smiled and said, "Because you helped me, I am sending you back to Earth." Moments later, Emily regained consciousness in the hospital. James, relieved, scolded her, asking, "Why did you do this?" Then, he firmly told her, "From now on, you will live with me in my new house." Sophia also chimed in, pretending to care, "Yes, I will take good care of you." They took Emily home, and James, believing Sophia's words, thanked her before leaving for work. Emma's soul watched in anger, thinking, "James, you never showed me this kind of love." As soon as James left, Sophia's true nature surfaced. She coldly ordered Emily, "Go bring me some water." Vicky, her son, approached and sneered, "Is she here to steal my dad?" Emily retorted, "He's my dad, not yours." The two children started fighting, and when Emily hit Vicky, Sophia became furious. Sophia violently beat Emily and cruelly warned, "Without your mother, you are nothing." She then forced her to clean the floor. As Emily scrubbed, Vicky taunted, "A person without a mother has no life." Tears streamed down Emily's face, but she was powerless. Later, Sophia secretly hired a detective to investigate where Yi had kept her money. The detective reported that Yi had taken a 30 million insurance policy in Emily's name, which she would receive at 18. Hearing this, Sophia grew greedy. Then Vicky throws one of his marbles toward Emily's feet. Emily turns and slips, and Sophia starts beating her again. Emma thinks, James doesn't know the truth. When will you see Sophia's real face? Sophia was tying something around Emily's body. Then Vicky throws another marble at Emily's feet. She turns, slips again, and Sophia starts beating her once more. Sophia then took a tie and began binding Emily's hands. Sophia began to suspect that Emily might know where her mother had hidden the receipt. Changing her approach, she spoke to Emily lovingly and asked, "Tell me, where has your mother kept the money?" Emily, unaware of any such thing, replied that she didn't know. Enraged, Sophia burned Emily's hand with hot water, causing her to scream in pain. When James arrived home, Vicky quickly alerted his mother. Sophia, hearing him, immediately changed her expression. James saw Emily crying and asked what had happened. Before Emily could speak, Sophia quickly interjected, "She was about to take her hand out of the hot water, so I saved her." James, believing her, let go of Emily. Sophia, however, grew concerned about Emily's injuries and started caring for her. While Emma's soul burned with rage, holding her doll tightly, Emily ran outside, desperately asking people if they knew where her mother was. Wandering the streets, she searched frantically, stepping onto the road just as a speeding car approached. At that moment, Emma instinctively rushed forward to save her daughter, only to be shocked she was in another world. Looking around, she saw the Buddha master and, confused, asked, "Who are you? Where am I? Am I alive?" The Buddha master explained, "You died, but now you have a chance to return. However, in that world, your identity will not be Emma, but Lucy. If you reveal your true identity, your life will be at risk." Emma hesitated, worried about how she would help Emily, but realizing it was her only chance, she agreed. Meanwhile, James took Emily to the hospital, where Sophia and her mother, Mrs. Liu, arrived. Disliking Emily, Mrs. Liu coldly remarked, "Emma is dead, and she left this girl behind." James, defending his daughter, said, "I understand that you didn't like Emma, but Emily is innocent. You cannot hate her." When Emily woke up, James, concerned, said, "If the car hadn't turned in time, I might have lost you." Emily, still longing for her mother, asked, "Dad, do you miss Mom?" James glanced at Sophia but remained silent. Noticing his hesitation, Sophia grew jealous and quickly said, "Let's go home." Emma, now bound by her promise to the Buddha master, watched from a distance, unable to approach them. At home, Sophia pretended to be caring, telling Emily, "You are very weak. You should take care of yourself." She then mentioned, Mr. Noah wants to cooperate with me, so I'm going to a meeting. She added excitedly, Mr. Noah is the richest man in this city. If he partners with us, we will become very wealthy. James, noticing Sophia's scar, said, You got injured while saving me. I've arranged for a doctor to perform surgery so your scar can be removed. A flashback revealed that, years ago, some goons had been searching for James. Sophia had hidden him but then approached the goons. When they asked where James was, she refused to tell them, leading them to injure her face. However, in the present, Sophia smirked, thinking, James will never know that the person who saved him was not me. Later, Mrs. Lu arrived, furious. She confronted, demanding, Where did your mother keep the money? How can we get it? Emily, frightened, repeated that she knew nothing. Frustrated, Mrs. Lu dragged her away. Meanwhile, Emma, now living as Lucy, learned that Mr. Noah was going to a hotel. Determined to stop the deal, she disguised herself and waited. When Noah arrived, she deliberately bumped into him. Suspicious, he asked, Who are you? Who sent you? Emma replied confidently, No one sent me, but I know you're planning to cooperate with James' group. That would be a mistake. She warned him, the stock market is unstable, and James' group's shares are about to drop. If you invest, you will suffer losses. She then handed him her business card before leaving. When Noah read the card, he saw that her name was Lucy and that she was a stock analyst. As Emma walked away, James spotted her. Shocked by how familiar she looked, he grabbed her arm and asked, Do we know each other? Emma, hiding her identity, apologized and left. Later, James met with Noah, expecting to finalize their deal. However, Noah, recalling Emma's warning, hesitated and said, Someone advised me against this partnership. James, taken aback, replied, You shouldn't be influenced by outsiders. You don't know the benefits you'll get from working with me. Noah thought for a moment and finally said, Come back in a week. If what they said doesn't happen, I will cooperate with you. On the other side, Mrs. Lu told Emily to pick up the sheer peels while she ate the fruit herself, carelessly throwing the peels on the ground. Everyone around was talking, and Vicky was playing with a ball. He suddenly said, Grandma, I need to aim. On whose head should I place the apple? Then, pointing at Emily, he asked again. Mrs. Lu, amused, placed an apple on Emily's head and told Vicky to aim. Vicky tried but missed the first shot. The second time, all the dots started throwing at him, and Emily, terrified, began crying. When James arrived, he immediately asked what was happening. Seeing Emily in tears, he tried to comfort her and asked, What happened? Through her sobs, Emily said, They were all bullying me. James, angered, scolded all three of them. However, Sophia quickly intervened, saying, She herself said she wanted to play with Vicky, so why is she crying now? The others agreed, and James, believing their words, turned to Emily and asked, Didn't you say you wanted to play with Vicky? Then why are you crying? Emily tried to explain, They were sacrificing me. I wasn't playing. But James refused to believe her. Heartbroken, Emily ran to her room and began crying. Meanwhile, Mrs. Lu spoke to her son, saying, Emily lives in our house now. You provide her food and shelter, so the money her mother left belongs to her. When James refused to take the money, Mrs. Lu insisted, saying, I need that money at any cost. Left with no choice, James approached Emily to talk, but she, still upset, said, I hate you. I won't tell you anything about the money. On the other side, at Noah's company, the stock price had plummeted, and despite the entire team's efforts, they were unable to control the losses. Panic spread as the company suffered heavy financial setbacks. Emma, working as a cleaner in the office, thought, by now, Mr. Noah should have called me. When she entered a room, she noticed a girl's laptop screen and quickly assessed the situation. She suggested, if you increase the price and sell these products strategically, you'll make a profit. A worker scoffed, A cleaner is going to teach us business now? However, as Noah entered, he realized that everything was unfolding exactly as she had predicted. He immediately instructed the worker to let her proceed. Emma not only saved Noah from financial ruin but also secured a profit of billions. Impressed, Noah apologized and asked, What do you want in return? Without hesitation, Emma said, I want the position of general manager. Surprised, Noah asked, Isn't that too much? Emma firmly responded, Because of me, you earned billions. This position is not too much to ask. Realizing her value, Noah officially announced, From today, she is my general manager. Emma, now in a powerful position, thought, Emily, your mother is strong now. I will take revenge on those who bullied you. Meanwhile, James prepared to leave for work when Sophia informed him Noah wanted to cooperate with us. But he refused. Curious, Sophia asked, Why did he change his mind? James, frustrated, replied, A new general manager convinced Noah otherwise. Because of her, he backed out. At that moment, Mrs. Liu arrived with Emily, and James left for the company. Sophia turned to Mrs. Liu and said, Let's go and get that 30 million back. They hailed a taxi and were about to leave for the insurance company when Emily tried to enter the car. Sophia, smirking, told her, Run behind us. I'll tell the driver to keep the speed slow. Emily, struggling, ran behind the taxi while Emma, watching from a distance, grew furious. At the insurance company, Mrs. Liu and Sophia demanded, Give us the insurance money in Emily's name. The employee checked the records and replied, If Emily is 18 years old, she can claim the money. Otherwise, you cannot receive it. Furious, Mrs. Liu insisted, but Emily interjected, Auntie, don't give them the money. They are bad people. Enraged, Mrs. Liu began pushing Emily. Terrified, Emily ran away, and at that moment, she collided with Emma. Seeing her face, Emily cried out in joy, Mom, you're here. Mrs. Liu and Sophia froze in shock. Sophia, pale with disbelief, murmured, I saw it myself. James buried her. Emma, realizing the danger, thought, I can't reveal my true identity. If I do, I'll die and won't be able to protect my daughter. Steeling herself, Emma told Emily, You're mistaken. I'm not your mother. But Sophia, staring at her, insisted, Are you sure? She looks exactly like her. Mrs. Liu, furious, raised her hand to slap Emma, but Emma swiftly caught her wrist and, without hesitation, slapped her hard in return. Mrs. Liu was shocked because Emma had never raised her hand against her before. She says, I will call my son, and calls James for help. At that time, James had gone to meet Mr. Noah. When he receives the call, he tells Mr. Noah, I have to go somewhere. Mr. Noah responds, You said you had to talk to the general manager. If you leave now, you'll lose your chance. Then Bo tells James, I have sent the general manager to the insurance company for some work. When he returns, you can meet him. James asks, What have you decided about the cooperation? Noah replies, I have heard that your family matters have worsened. Settle them first, and then I will consider cooperation. He then adds, I have to go pick up the general manager. James wonders, what kind of relationship does he have with the general manager that he is going to get him himself? Later, James goes to the cafe. When he arrives, his mother tells him, Look, your wife is bullying me. When he sees Emma standing in front of him, he is shocked and thinks, I buried her myself. How is she alive? Wanting to reconcile, he reaches out to hold her hand, but Emma slaps him. James says, Emma, you are my wife. Can't I hold your hand? Emma replies, My name is Lucy. She then adds, Can't you see that your whole family is bullying this little girl? She has a bonus in her name, and she has come to claim her money. Mrs. Liu interrupts, This is our family matter. You have no right to interfere. She then accuses Emma, You are Emma, pretending to be dead, and raises her hand to slap her. Just then, Noah arrives and grabs Mrs. Liu's hand to stop her. James looks at Noah and asks, Why are you here? Noah replies, This is my general manager, Meme. James, still in disbelief, asks, Do you know her from before? Noah says, Are you joking? She is my general manager. Of course, I know her. Then, Emma asks, Who is he? Noah's assistant answers, This is Mr. James, the president of James Group. Emma remarks, His family is mistreating a little girl. Do you still want to cooperate with them? Noah immediately cancels the cooperation with James Group and takes Emma away. Mrs. Liu turns to her son and whispers, Could she be Emma's twin? But if she had a twin, why don't we know about her? James calls his assistant and orders, Bring me all the information on Meme. At the company, James' assistant presents Meme's background, stating, She studied abroad and saved Noah's company from a major financial crisis. That's why Mr. Noah made her the general manager. Later, Sophia visits James and says, "We need to find out whether she is Emma or not." She whispers something into his ear. That night, as Noah is heading home, he notices that Emma's office door is open. Curious, he walks inside and finds Emma sleeping. Noah quietly approaches her and hears her murmuring his name in her sleep. As he leans in to listen closely, Emma suddenly wakes up, startled. Noah quickly says, "Go home and rest." He leaves the room, trying to calm his racing heart, and wonders, am I starting to like her? The next day, board members gather at Noah's company for a presentation. One of the board members says, "There are rumors that you used the back door to enter this company, Miss Meme. We also hear that you're forcing Noah to cancel cooperation with Jin Group." Emma calmly presents her documents as proof of her legitimate entry into the company. Sophia, observing her, thinks to herself, she was a housewife for 10 years. How can she have 20 years of experience? Noah's assistant interjects, because of Miss Meme, we secured many new projects, and she saved the company from legal trouble. Do you really think we should let her go? The board members agree, we want her to stay as general manager. However, we cannot break our cooperation with James Group. Emma then presents evidence, stating, James Group is already in crisis. They have taken a loan of $3 billion and have not repaid it. Do you think cooperating with them will benefit you? Sophia, furious, demands, how do you know about our financial matters? You are not Meme, you are Emma. Everyone gasps in shock. James stands up and declares, she is my ex-wife. Noah, now angry, says, you did not come here for business matters. You came here to confirm her identity. Chang admits, yes, we wanted to confirm her real identity. Then, Sophia brings out a safe and says, if you put your fingerprint on this safe and it does not open, you prove that you are not Emma. Emma places her fingerprint on the safe, and it remains locked. James and Sophia are shocked. Emma smirks and says, your mistress did a great job. And James, you know exactly how hard she worked to destroy your family. The board members start murmuring about James and Sophia's affair. One of them asks, so Sophia is his mistress? And she is pregnant? Was he cheating on his wife? More members start speaking against James. James turns to Emma and says, I'm sorry, Emma. Emma thinks to herself, all these years, you never apologized to me once. It feels good to hear it now. Noah then declares, I will go against anyone who wrongfully accused Lucy. After the meeting, Noah notices Emma is upset and asks, can I help you? Emma thanks him and says, if you hadn't changed the safe settings in time, I would have been exposed. Noah responds, you should thank yourself. You already knew what James and Sophia would try to do, so you prepared everything in advance. Emma had previously told Noah that she wanted revenge on James and to get her daughter back, so he was helping her in every way. Noah warns her, James won't give up easily. He will keep trying to uncover the truth. Emma remains silent, not revealing her next move. That evening. Later, Emma steps out of the company, and James approaches her with flowers. He apologizes, saying, my wife looked just like you, so I made a mistake. If you've forgiven me, come to my house for dinner. Emma suspects that he wants to test whether she is really Emma, so she agrees. Meanwhile, Sophia tells Mrs. Liu, Emma is allergic to mangoes. Since she is coming to our house for dinner, we'll serve her mango. If she reacts, we'll know she is Emma. At dinner, Mrs. Liu slaps Emily and says, your mother died and left you with us. When dinner starts, Mrs. Liu tells Emily, you cannot sit with us. Emily takes a small bowl of rice and starts eating alone. Emma and James arrive. Emma sees Emily and asks, how are you, little friend? James asks, why are you sitting here alone to eat? Emily replies, Grandma said I can't sit with them. Emma confronts them, how can you treat a little girl like this? James tells Emily, come and sit at the table with us. Mrs. Liu apologizes and invites Emma to eat. Sophia then places a plate of mangoes in front of Emma, saying, we specially ordered this for you. Emma eats the mangoes without any reaction, shocking everyone. A flashback reveals that before entering their house, Emma had taken allergy medicine, knowing in advance how they would try to test her identity. James came to drop Emma off outside, and as she was about to leave, she intentionally stumbled so that James would catch her. Taking advantage of the moment, she discreetly plucked a strand of his hair. Just then, Noah arrived to pick her up, and she got into his car. As they drove away, Emily ran behind, crying out, Mom, don't leave me. She fell to the ground, sobbing. Seeing this, Emma became emotional, but Noah warned, if you go out like this, your identity will be exposed, and I won't be able to help you. James picked up Emily and carried her away. Emma then told Noah, James has started believing that I'm not Emma. Now, I have to destroy his company. and there's something else I need to prove. Curious, Noah asked, "What do you want to do?" Emma glanced at James's hair and replied, "I need to find out if Vicky is really James's son." The next day, Emma was working in her office when Noah came in and said, "You bought shares of Jahan Group at 31, but even with 50 shares in your name, you can't take over the company." Emma confidently replied, "I will buy the company within 3 months." Noah asked how she planned to acquire the remaining shares, but she only said, "I'll tell you later," and left. Noah then turned to his assistant and asked, "What is missing in Mim's life?" The assistant suggested, "Maybe she lacks money? If she buys more shares, she can take over the company." Noah smirked, "No, she's missing a handsome man like me." Realizing Noah had started liking Emma, the assistant smiled. Later, Emma took Emily to the park. Emily was overjoyed and said, "Auntie, I really like you. You only come once a week. Can you visit me twice?" Emma smiled, but then her expression turned serious as she noticed something unsettling. She whispered, "Who did all this?" Sensing her fear, Emily reassured her, "Don't be scared. I will take revenge on whoever hurt you." Then she confided, "Grandma tortures me." Anger flared in Emma's eyes, and she resolved to end everything quickly. While Emma was outside, James approached her and offered, "Work with me instead of Noah, and I'll give you 20% extra." Emma smirked, "I don't want 20%, I want a 30% share." James hesitated but eventually bargained, "I can offer you 10%. Meanwhile, Sophia's son insisted on buying toys, so she took him and Emily shopping. As they stepped out of the car, Vicky taunted Emily, "You can't come shopping with us." He then pushed her back inside. Sophia locked the car doors and windows, trapping Emily inside. At the same time, Noah learned that James had met with Emma. When she arrived at the company, Noah scrutinized her from head to toe. Emma frowned, "What's wrong with you?" Noah asked, "Did you meet with James?" Emma teased, "Are you jealous? Do you have feelings for me?" In response, Noah impulsively kissed her. Shocked, Emma pushed him away and handed him a file. He read it and realized, "James has transferred shares to your name. That means you own more than him now." Emma smirked, "In 3 days, James Group will be mine, and you will cooperate with me." Noah assured her, "I will support you in everything, but in return, you must cook for me." As they were on their way to eat, they saw a large crowd gathered around a car. A woman was crying, "A child is trapped inside, and she's not responding." Alarmed, Noah stopped the car. Emma rushed forward, demanding, "Who is the child?" When she looked inside, she saw Emily unconscious. Noah followed and was equally shocked. Without hesitation, he smashed the car window and pulled Emily out. They rushed Emily to the hospital. Soon after, Sophia arrived and angrily asked, "Who damaged my car?" A bystander scolded her, "You fool. You locked the girl inside, and she almost died. Someone took her to the hospital." Panic surged through Sophia as she thought, "If James finds out how I treat Emily, he will kill me." At the hospital, the doctor informed them, "You brought her just in time. A little later, and she wouldn't have survived." Emma noticed Noah's injured hand and grew teary-eyed. But Noah reassured her, "Don't worry about me. Just make me dinner." Soon, Mrs. Liu and Sophia arrived. Mrs. Liu demanded, "Why did you bring my granddaughter here?" Emma, furious, slapped her. Sophia snapped, "This is our family matter. Stay out of it." Emma warned, "I won't hurt you since you're pregnant, but don't forget, you're talking about a little girl." Noah stepped forward, and Sophia sneered, "Why are you here?" Noah calmly replied, "I was already here. Didn't you see me?" James then arrived, panicked, and rushed to Emily. "Don't scare me like this," he whispered. Emily slowly opened her eyes. James gently asked, "What happened?" Tearfully, she said, "Aunt took me shopping but locked me in the car." James asked, "Did she bully you before?" Seeing Emily's scars, he realized the extent of her suffering. She admitted, "Aunt and Grandma bully me together." Enraged, James slapped Sophia hard, causing her fake knife to fall. James picked it up and demanded, "What is this?" Sophia, desperate, confessed, I loved you, so I lied about saving your life as a child. Yo, puzzled, thought, but I saved Dan's life. Dan turned to Sophia and asked, why did you lie? How did you even know someone saved me? Sophia explained, Emma and I went to the same school. She had a habit of writing diaries. One day in the library, she was writing about her past and forgot her diary. When I read it, I learned about you and got attracted. I thought that if I lied about saving your life, my future would be secure. Your photo was in Emma's diary, so I had no trouble convincing you. Emma turned to James and smirked, quite the show, isn't it? James, furious, grabbed her hand. Just then, Hawk intervened, declaring, this isn't Emma, it's Meme. They began taking Emma away. But Emily cried, Aunt, I will miss you. James then told Noah, get a DNA test for Sophia's children. Who knows if she's lying? Later, James called his sister and ordered, throw Sophia out of the house. Mrs. Liu objected, she's pregnant. You can't do this. Ignoring her, James instructed his assistant to conduct the test. When the results arrived, Mrs. Liu was shocked. This is not my grandson, she shouted. Sophia laughed bitterly. When did I ever say Vicky is your child? Furious, James ordered, throw her and her son out immediately. The assistant followed his command. That night, James sat by Emily's bedside as she slept. He whispered, I'm sorry. They bullied you, and I didn't believe you. But I promise, I'll be a good father. You won't miss your mother anymore. The next day, Emma arrived at her office, and her secretary handed her a bouquet. Seeing the flowers, Emma muttered, even if James didn't send these, he already knew. The note inside read, I threw Sophia out of the house. Emma tossed it aside. James called her and said, my daughter deserves you. Stay with her for a few days. Emma, needing to bring Emily back, agreed. Noah, jealous, offered, I'll increase your salary. Stay with me instead. Meanwhile, Mrs. Liu, still hating Emily, tried to poison her medicine. But Emma arrived in time, forcing Mrs. Liu to drink it herself. As Mrs. Liu screamed in pain, James declared, if you bully my daughter again, I'll send you to a nursing home. Guards took Mrs. Liu away. As she left, she realized the truth. I know who you are, she shouted at Emma. But before she could say more, the car drove off. Emily, unaware, went inside to play. James gifted a necklace to Emma, and Noah was watching them from a distance. He became furious. When they returned to the company, Noah confronted Emma, saying, you are not a child, you don't need to accept gifts in exchange for favors. He then removed the necklace from her neck and threw it away, replacing it with another necklace. Emma objected, I am not a child that you can treat me like this. She then asked, are you rejecting me? Finally, she declared, if you bring my daughter back to me, I will accept you. How bold is that? She then stated, there is a meeting in 3 days. At that meeting, you will hand over James' company to me, and I will support you. In return, after 3 days, I will bring your daughter back. Meanwhile, Mrs. Liu was taken to a nursing home. She was tied up on Emma's orders, screaming, I know that Emma is alive. Emma then confronted her and said, I will tell my son who you really are. Mrs. Liu threatened, if you want to tell him, then do it. Emma retorted, you are having fun in the nursing home now, but tomorrow, your son will become bankrupt. He won't be able to pay your bills, and you will end up on the streets. Furious, Mrs. Liu yelled, I will kill you. Emma smirked, first, save yourself, then try to kill me. Meanwhile, Noah brought Emily home. They played games together. He became a horse for her, making her laugh. When Emma arrived, Emily excitedly told her, Uncle is very nice. Feeling hungry, Emily said she wanted a burger. Emma objected, children shouldn't eat burgers, but Noah ignored her, lifted Emily up, and took her to get one. Emma followed them. After feeding Emily, they spent the whole day at the park, playing together. Later, they dropped Emily back at James' house before heading home. On the way, Noah dozed off in the car. When they arrived, Emma tried to wake him up. In response, Noah thanked her and kissed her. He then started seducing her. In the next scene, the board members gathered for a meeting. Everyone asked James who the new shareholder was. Emma entered the room. And James announced, the new shareholder is her. Emma confidently stated, I am the new president of James Group. James was shocked. Emma showed him the document, explaining, you transferred 10% of shares into my name. That means my shares are now more than yours. According to company rules, the one with the most shares becomes the president. When James examined the document, he realized the truth. You are Emma, he exclaimed. You cannot deceive me. Emma ignored him and called for the guards to remove him from the premises. She then signed a cooperation deal with Noah. As Emma exited the building, James demanded, how did you survive? Emma coldly replied, you don't need to know that. James desperately added, I know you still love me. Come home with me. Emma slapped him and said, the biggest mistake of my life was loving you. I will take away everything from you, your house and your car. Later, when James returned home, he found his house sealed. Emma had provided evidence to the police that James had evaded taxes for years, leading to the confiscation of all his assets. As a result, he was sent to jail. Noah and Emma watched from a distance. Noah asked, are you satisfied? Emma replied, he got what he deserved. Mrs. Liu, hearing that her son had become bankrupt, lost her sanity. The nurses at the nursing home threw her out, saying, your bills are unpaid, and you have nothing left. She was left begging on the streets. Emma approached her, handed her a gold cup, and said, beg in this. Mrs. Liu was humiliated but had no choice. Passers-by mocked her, is this woman crazy? No one will give her money if she begs with a golden cup. Just then, she saw a Buddha master and followed him. The master told Emma, you have broken a sacred promise. You cannot live much longer. Emma asked, how much time do I have? The master replied, you have suffered greatly in life, and now the heavens have given you a choice. You may live a long and prosperous life, but in return, someone else must take your place. Emma hesitated and asked, whose life must I trade? The master remained silent. Meanwhile, Emily approached the master and said, I want my mom to be happy with Uncle Noah. If a life must be taken, take mine. The master nodded and said, very well. I will come for you in 3 days. Emily requested, give me 1 month. I want to see my mom and Uncle Noah get married. The master granted her request. During this time, Emily spent every moment with her mother, making memories. One day, while Noah was working in his office, Emily called him urgently. Mom has fainted. Please come home. Noah rushed back to find the entire house beautifully decorated. Confused, he asked, what is all this? Emily placed a veil on Emma's head. Emma smiled and said, I am going to propose to you. She held out a ring. Noah chuckled, that's my job, and got down on one knee to propose to her instead. Both Emma and Emily were overjoyed. Just then, Emily collapsed, coughing up blood. Both Noah and Emma panicked. Emma cried, we need to take her to the hospital. But Emily shook her head weakly. I don't have much time left, she admitted. I made a deal with the master. If Mom and Uncle Noah got married, I would sacrifice my life. In a flashback, the master told Emily, if your mother and Noah marry, they will live long, healthy lives. But in return, I will take your life. Back in the present, Noah and Emma ran out, carrying Emily, desperate to save her. But suddenly, Emma sensed a presence. When she turned, she saw the master taking Emily's soul away. Devastated, she fell to the ground, crying. Sometime later, the news reported, yesterday, on the festival of Midum, Mr. Noah and Emma got married and hosted a grand celebration. In another realm, Emily looked at their wedding photos and smiled sadly. Mom, I miss you so much, but as the master's disciple, I cannot return to you. And with that, the drama ended. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and like the video.